We are now just 146 days away from the official release of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. So what's really exciting about Episode 9 is that we do know that this film, at the end of the day, is really going to answer a lot of the burning questions from The Force Awakens. That's also going to provide new questions at the very beginning of this movie that will ultimately be answered at the very end by J.J., Chris, and George Lucas. Now, this film has a lot going for it because we do know that reshoots are now extended all the way until September of this year. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the plans by J.J. Abrams and more, this is where things begin to get very intense for the character of Anakin Skywalker. Now, specifically, what's really intriguing about all of this is that it's described that one of the sequences that are planned for reshoots during the month of August of this year is said to involve actor Hayden Christensen for a sequence as the role of Anakin Skywalker for a moment in the second act of the film. It's described that one of the plans by J.J. Abrams is actually said to involve Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker appearing before Rey in the Lost City, where it's described that his Force Ghost will be able to split into 3 different forms, while staying separated at the same time, all of which consists of a young Anakin, like from Episode 3, a middle-aged Anakin that is described to age Hayden Christensen, and a far mature version of Anakin that is said to be unrecognizable to the audience, as if he is a new character. It's described that all 3 phases of Anakin are able to split individually during the sequence and eventually walk into one another and combine as one, before Rey's very own eyes, while she enters the Land of Warriors location. The sequence is said to be very dark and gritty for the audience that will take fans by surprise. So let's go over a couple of parts about this, because we do know that Episode 9 is going to take a lot of risks, and they're really going to implement a lot of different aspects of the Star Wars franchise that fans have never seen before on the big screen, which is going to be a big deal for everybody around the world. Now, when we look at the Star Wars franchise, we do know that Disney and Lucasfilm are treating this movie with special care. They know it's a big deal, not just for them as companies, Disney and Lucasfilm, but also for the Star Wars community, how it's going to resonate with Star Wars fans, because, well, after all, this movie really does determine the future of the Star Wars franchise and exactly where the franchise will sit after Episode 9's release. Now, with that being said, this particular moment is said to evolve the concept of Force Ghosts involving Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. Now, it's said to actually have a moment in which the light side-oriented Force Ghost of Anakin Skywalker is able to split into 3 different forms. A young version like how we see him in Episode 3 and also at the very end of Return of the Jedi. The other one of which is an aged version of Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. And lastly, a far mature version of Anakin that is now said to be unrecognizable to the audience. So kind of think Sebastian Shaw, except to a different level. So with that being said, this whole entire sequence is said to really set up the idea of a Force Ghost being able to split itself apart into 3 different phases, while not actually staying as one being. So that's a very interesting thing, because we do know that J.J. Abrams had ideas like this in the early drafts of Episode 7 that he's now throwing into Episode 9. Again, a lot of his older ideas from The Force Awakens that never made it to the final cut are making its way over into The Rise of Skywalker. One great example here is the Death Star 2. One of the big examples in Episode 7 was that originally J.J. Abrams wanted the Death Star 2 to be submerged underneath the ocean. And now, what do you have it? In Episode 9, we have the wreckage literally just floating in the middle of the ocean. So, in this particular scenario, it's said to take place over in the Lost City, specifically in the Land of Warriors, where Rey witnesses this whole entire thing happening before her very own eyes and sees all 3 different forms of Anakin Skywalker. Now, this is actually all said to be planned for reshoots during the month of August. We're not quite sure if it's the beginning, middle, or end of that month. Most likely it's going to be the end of August, since we do know that reshoots are now going all the way until September, and quite possibly the very end of September of this year, before they actually aim to complete the movie this October. So by October, they plan to really finish the movie completely. We're talking about editing, we're talking about voiceover work, everything, the whole deal. Once it's ready, and then that's when we're going to get a lot of TV spots and stuff like that, which in a really strange way, it's not that far away if you think about it. So, with that being said, in this particular scenario, the Lost City seems like a very important location, not just for the second act of episode 9, but for Rey as developing as a character by JJ and George Lucas, right? And what they're trying to do with this character, what she's going to experience, and her connections to the prequels and the originals of the Star Wars franchise is really going to determine exactly where Rey stands at the very end of episode 9 and how that's all going to be utilized in this movie by JJ. And I think that he really does have the opportunity here to mark this film down as the best of the sequel trilogy. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.